Imagine for a second that creating your absolute best work, whether that's writing a book, designing a product, or building a company from the ground up, is exactly like putting your body through a blistering, relentless marathon. Sounds pretty intense, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down what I think is one of the most fascinating metaphors on creativity ever written. The legendary author Haruki Murakami realized that the solitary and honestly often really painful act of long-distance running is actually a perfect proxy for the act of creating. So we're going to see how this wild idea can completely transform the way you approach your own work.
So there's this really fascinating mantra that Murakami actually read in a Paris hotel, passed down from another marathon runner. And it goes like this: pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Think about that for a second. You're running, your legs are absolutely screaming at you, this hurts, I can't take it anymore. Look, the pain part, the physical ache of running or the immense mental strain of, say, writing a novel, that's an unavoidable reality. You literally cannot dodge it. But the part about not being able to take it anymore, that decision to suffer or complain, that is completely up to you. Suffering is a choice. And this one concept is the absolute core of everything we're breaking down today.
Just to ground our analysis, this is the source material we're looking at. Murakami's incredibly acclaimed memoir, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. Now, just to be clear, this is definitely not some health guide or a fitness manual. Murakami himself admits he's not trying to lecture anyone on how to stay in shape. Instead, this memoir is a raw, real-time look at the life lessons he picked up by putting his body in motion for over 2 decades, running at least one marathon every single year.
Murakami draws this direct, really vivid bridge between building physical muscle and building creative muscle. You see, a lot of us think of novel writing as this quiet, purely intellectual work. But Murakami, he tells us it's actually way more like manual labor. Just like you run every day, breaking down your physical muscles to build endurance and strength, you've got to sit at your desk every single day to push through creative blocks. You're literally conditioning your mind to bear heavy loads over and over again until that patience and effort just become a permanent part of who you are.
Section 1. From bartender to writer, an unusual origin.
So before he ever wrote a single word, Murakami actually owned a jazz club. We're talking a life of really hard manual labor. But the pivot happened in this almost cinematic instant. Picture this. It's April 1st, 1978 at Jingu Stadium. Murakami is just lying on the grass, drinking a cold beer, watching a baseball game. Suddenly, the American batter Dave Hilton hits a double. And you hear that perfect echoing crack of the bat hitting the sweet spot. In that exact second, literally out of the blue, as if something just fell right out of the sky, Murakami has this sensory epiphany. He thinks, I could try writing a novel. It just clicked. Right after the game, he went straight to a stationery store, bought a cheap $5 fountain pen and a stack of paper, and just started writing at his kitchen table every night. Super simple, but incredibly profound.
Section 2. The secret to creating. The 3 pillars.
Now, inspiration alone is great, but it does not sustain a career. So here are the 3 pillars of long-term success, straight from Murakami. Number 1 is talent. Look, you do need some fuel to start the car, right? But the big problem with talent is that you can't control it. You can't control the quantity or the quality. It basically has a mind of its own. However, pillars 2 and 3, focus and endurance, these are qualities that are entirely under your control. You can train them, you can sharpen them, and most importantly, you can use them to completely compensate for any lack of natural, innate genius. Let's dive a bit deeper into focus. Murakami defines this as the ability to direct all of your limited talents toward whatever is critical at that exact moment. Without this, even infinite talent is entirely useless. He actually points out how something as silly as a simple toothache can completely destroy a brilliant writer's concentration. To train his own focus, Murakami sits down for 3 to 4 hours every single morning, completely ignoring everything else in the world. It's intense. It's like a laser beam. And then we have endurance. Now, if focus is the ability to hold your breath, endurance is the art of continuing to breathe slowly and quietly while you're holding your breath. It's about maintaining that intense focus not just for a day, but for 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years. It is the pure discipline of daily physical training, completely applied to mental work. Murakami says that writers without overflowing natural talent essentially have to dig a deep hole in solid rock with a chisel just to find their creative water vein. And man, that demands some serious endurance.
Section 3. The Athens Marathon. The ultimate test.
Okay, in the summer of 1983, Murakami decides to run the original marathon route in Greece entirely alone, right in the dead of summer.
We need to map out this physical and mental degradation because, guys, it's a wild ride. By mile 4, he's already ripped his shirt off because of the blistering heat. The whole route is paved with this marble dust that just glares under a relentless sun. Along the way, he is literally passing the corpses of cats and dogs flattened on the road. The heat is so incredibly dry that his sweat evaporates instantly, leaving this crust of salt that stings his eyes and makes his lips taste like anchovy paste. Yuck. By mile 17, he's still hanging in there, calculating his time, thinking he's gonna make it. But by mile 23, the fuel just runs out. He's dying of thirst. The sea wind is hitting him head on, and suddenly, he just starts hating everything. He is genuinely angry at the sheep grazing by the side of the road. He's angry at the photographer following him in a van. It is just absolute, pure misery.
So, at this absolute emotional and physical rock bottom, how does he actually survive? Well, he turns to this one thought. And honestly, it's the ultimate example of endurance. He just starts repeating to himself, I am not human, I am a pure machine, and as such, I don't have to feel anything. He completely detaches his mind from his physical body, which is basically screaming at him to stop. To endure this extreme suffering that he voluntarily chose for himself, the only way forward is to just stop feeling. Simply move forward, one step at a time.
And that finally brings us to the finish line. Now, you'd probably imagine that crossing the historic finish line in marathon would bring this sense of epic, cinematic triumph, right? Maybe some loud music playing in your head. But no, Murakami reveals there was absolutely no sense of glorious victory. He basically just stopped at a gas station covered in so much salt he looked like a human salt lick, and an old man handed him some cut flowers. His only real emotion, his only joy in that specific moment, was the profound, absolute relief of knowing he didn't have to take a single step more. Just, phew, I don't have to run anymore.
Section 4. Living fully. Running to live.
So you gotta wonder, if it's really so agonizing, why do it at all? Well, here is Murakami's brilliant conclusion. People often scoff at daily runners, right? They claim they're just desperate to live longer. But he argues the exact opposite. We don't run to extend our time. We run to ensure the time we do have is fully alive. Pushing yourself to the absolute limits of your individual capacity, facing down your own barriers, not shying away from friction, that is the true essence of running. And it's the true essence of writing too. It's about raising the bar every single day, because at the end of the day, the only opponent you actually have to beat is yourself, the person you were yesterday. And that leaves us with this final reflection. If the pain in life and in creation is totally inevitable, but suffering is a choice, well, the question becomes very personal. Whether you're sitting down to write your first novel, launching a brand new business, or honestly, simply trying to get 1% better every day, what necessary pain are you willing to embrace? What are you willing to endure to ensure you live your life and execute your art to the absolute fullest? Definitely something to think about the next time you hit your own wall. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you in the next one.